I would say to just be patient with yourself, and to find support. We're not meant to like be alone as humans and just figure
Mhm.
things out as humans, right? And I truly believe everyone needs their own community and their own support
Yeah.
system. So just being patient with yourself, but then also finding that support to help you through whatever it is you're coming through.
Welcome to the Holistic Productivity Podcast. I'm your host, Chris LeBrun, helping you achieve your goals in every area of life so you can dream big, plan smart, and live fully. Hello and welcome to the Holistic Productivity Podcast. My name is Chris LeBrun. I'm your host. I'm a productivity coach, and I'm so glad that you are here today. We got a fantastic guest lined up for you today. My guest is a woman on a mission to live life with purpose and without limits. For 17 years, Chanelle Wimbish has been living with a spinal cord injury, but she hasn't let that slow her down. Chanelle is determined to live life as close to the same as she did before her injury, even though now she uses a wheelchair. Life on wheels for Chanelle includes traveling, driving, swimming, kayaking, and mountain biking. All those things sound like amazing fun. We're going to get together and do that sometime. Best of all, she continued dating after her injury, found love, and married the love of her life 7 years ago, and now is a proud mom to their 2 children. Family and faith are at the utmost importance for Chanelle as she navigates the challenges of living as a wheelchair user. For 18 years, Chanelle has been working in clinical research for infectious diseases. She's passionate about advocating for better accessibility in public spaces and serves on the board of directors for Patapsco Valley State Park here in Maryland, which has a variety of adaptive programs for persons with disabilities. As a mom on wheels, Chanelle often gets lots of questions from children about her wheelchair, which is why most recently, Chanelle and her husband wrote a children's book titled Bradley's Big Question. The book shows that curiosity, asked with kindness, can turn confusion into connection and strangers into friends. Chanelle, it is just such an honor to have you on the podcast today. I know we've been trying to do this here for a minute, and thank you for inspiring us to live life to the fullest and reminding us that our dreams are worth chasing no matter the obstacle. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I am happy to be here and happy to talk with you today and share a little bit of my story.
Yeah. Now, in the intro, I mentioned your mission to live without limits, to live life without limits.
Mhm.
What does that phrase actually mean to you in practice? And is that a mindset that you had to develop over the last few years, or has that
Mhm.
always been part of who you are?
Yeah, so I'll start with that. I think it's always been a part of who I am.
Mm,
As a little girl, I was always just determined to find adventure, get into new things, whether it be music or art, sports, even though I really took to swimming. I always appreciated other sports. So I just in general always had an open mind and wanted to find new things to get into. And even if I wasn't good at them, like basketball, when I was 5 years old, my dad put me in basketball and I was no good. So, uh, but I appreciate the game, right? And yeah, so I think that really helped me through life. And then in my 20s, when I was injured, to really accept having to live with such a life changing injury, that being a spinal cord injury, and really having to use a manual wheelchair throughout my life now. And so that's been 17 years of my life. So at first it was accepting that. You go through the process. And then it was like, okay, my mindset is what I know. I'm determined. I'm going to seek out opportunities despite the wheels. I will do it on wheels, and that's anything from driving to cooking. Cooking from a seated position is difficult. Yeah, it's different. I like that. It's different. Doing laundry is different, but even though that limitation, if you will, if you look at it like that, or that barrier is there, I'm still going to figure it out. So a lot of it is the mindset, but then my own determination, which is just something that I've always had as a little girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that because I think, I'm guessing that this wasn't something that you had planned in your life, right? We don't
Right.
plan those types of things, but I think it's those unplanned moments that really shape how we live and who we become.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I really do agree with that because after my injury, I could have just kind of balled up and said, I'm going to stay home and not do anything. I'm not going to get back to living my life. I'm not going to go back to
Yeah.
work. This is too much. And in the beginning, you do have that acceptance piece where you need to
Mhm.
accept this unexpected situation that's happened in your life. But then you kind of come out of that because now you just learn how to live with it, you know? And that's been, of course, a process.
I'm sure it's a process that continues with every new challenge that you face or every new experience that you
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing I've learned living on wheels is how to adapt.
Mm.
So, an example of that is if I arrive someplace and I can't get into the place because there's steps,
Yeah.
or I thought it was just a simple entry into the front door and it's not.
Yeah.
Uh, you learn how to think on your toes and you learn how to adapt. Okay, let me call the establishment and see, is there another entrance?
Right.
Let me see if I can hop the one step myself. Let me see if, a friend is willing to help me get in here. Of course,
Yeah.
if I'm with my husband, it's no problem. With,
Yeah.
hopping a step, for instance. But there's other ways to like figure out the situation when the challenge arises. And so that's one I often come back to with living on wheels.
Yeah. It reminds me of that, what you just said reminds me of that. I think it's a Mike Tyson quote. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in
Mhm.
the face,
Yeah. Oh, that's a
right?
good one.
Yeah. And,
That's a
and,
good
and
one.
we all have to have those moments
Uh-huh.
where we adapt to life because it's
Mhm.
not going according to plan. But I think it probably reveals how we respond and lead and connect.
Mhm.
My wife is a teacher
Mm.
and she just sees kids who are not coming up with that ability to adapt and think on their feet,
Mm.
and that's a challenge I think that we all can face,
Yeah.
regardless of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said something earlier before talking about how this was sort of always who you were, and I think
Mhm.
uh, it's often said that challenges don't change us, they reveal who we already are.
Mm.
And do you agree with
I've never
that?
heard that. Yeah. Yeah. I do agree with that. That's a good way to put it. It really shows who you are, you know,
Yeah.
when a challenge is placed before you.
What do you think your injury revealed about you and your character and who you were before that?
Oh, that I won't be defeated,
Mm,
I think is what was really revealed. And again, everything took time. So
yeah,
I don't want to diminish that. I was injured. I had this life changing event
yeah,
happen. And then all of a sudden I was doing all these things and I got married and
yeah,
I had
right,
I had, kids and
yeah,
I'm back to work and everything is just honky dory.
yeah,
Because it's not, right? It's
yeah,
all been a process.
yeah,
Yeah, it's all been a process. But yeah, it challenges really reveal yeah, who you are and how you tackle or take on a challenge.
yeah,
And I see that in myself even con- continuously as I'm living.
yeah,
Yeah, because we're always going to be um challenges are always going to come up. for us, and they may not always be the same. So you may have to figure out the next challenge. And we
Right.
can't, there's no foreshadowing either. We don't know what that next challenge is going to be.
Right. And like with mistakes, I mean, I try not to make the same mistake twice, right? But that's something that's in my control. Whereas challenges that are external, I need to have that adaptability, that ability to look and see what am I facing here? How can I deal with that? How can I move forward to still, reach my goals? And I'm
Yeah.
sure it was a big journey, that took several years. Was there a moment when you just sort of stopped thinking about and grieving what had happened and started genuinely being excited about what was ahead of you?
Yeah. I don't know when exactly that moment
Yeah.
was. Definitely a couple years after my injury. And it involved me getting around other wheelchair users and
Mm,
finding a community
yeah.
of other people who they were in a similar situation and they are tackling the world
Yeah.
as they wish to do. So that was the biggest piece, was like finding my community of wheelchair users,
Yeah.
other moms, wheelchair users who have children and are married. So
Yeah.
that was a big change for the better.
Right. A positive change. Yeah.
Mhm.
I look at athletes that are in wheelchairs, and I'm just amazed by them. I mean, because I can barely do it,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
fully abled, and
Yeah.
they're out there, they'd be out there kicking my butt. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
like, that's just so amazing. So I'm sure being around that community
Oh, sure.
was a huge thing for you. And we all need
Yeah,
community. We all need
we
people
do.
that we can resonate with and can encourage us, been there
Mhm.
before, maybe walked a path that we haven't experienced yet. That's a
Exactly.
huge thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly.
um eh, f- I mentioned this earlier: family, faith, adventure, career, advocacy,
Yeah.
authorship. Yeah, I mean, you are operating in a whole lot of different arenas. And I think that's one of
Yeah.
the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, because that's what we're all about here, just living out those dreams in every area of life. So, how would you
Oh,
say
thank
that
you.
you hold all of that together without losing yourself in the process?
Mm. Well, I think the main purpose of that all is, my quest to advance accessibility
Hmm.
in all those things,
Hmm.
right? So when I talk about my work being on the board at the park, that's really important to me because it's important for wheelchair users to be out in nature. And there are a lot of spaces that are
Yeah.
not accessible. In terms of writing this children's book, I really want to share the story, and have that representation for kids, seeing someone as a wheelchair user in the book, but also being a tool and a resource for parents that really don't
Hmm.
know what to do when their kid asks them something that causes them to freeze about someone who's different or is using a wheelchair. I mean, I get it all the time. That's why we wrote that book. It's because parents they freeze, they're scared, they have a panic. They want to
Yeah.
just get away from the situation in this wheelchair because their kid is like all up in the space and trying to figure out what they see,
Yeah.
and a lot of parents don't know how to respond, and that's okay. So that was, the purpose of writing that book. So, yeah, um, hope that answered the question.
Yeah, well, I think so. And I mean, what does your planning and prioritization look like? I mean, how do you decide what
Oh.
gets your energy?
Ooh, that is a good one because sometimes I call myself multitasking,
Mm,
and I'll have 3 things that I'm trying to get done,
yeah.
and that's probably not the best way to go about things. But usually like once a week maybe, I'll choose one thing to put my time toward, And it's usually based on what the deadline is.
Right.
Because if I really want to do all the things that are on my list, then have to prioritize according to deadline.
Right.
When is the book draft due to the editor? you
Right.
know, when is the next event at the park that I need to make sure I talk to staff and ensure it's accessible. The event is accessible for that day. So it's really taking a calendar and looking at
Yeah.
deadlines and plugging those in. I mean, it's probably pretty boring and not life, life
Not in my
changing to
world.
do that. But
That's
yeah, I
that's
mean,
what we live for here, that the plugging
that's
into
right.
the calendar and the time block. You did
That's
not
right.
come to the right place if you think that's boring. And that's yeah.
Yeah. I
No,
mean, that's how I function. I just have a big old
yeah.
calendar and I'm like, okay, what's next for this week? What's on
Yeah.
the agenda for this week? Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more about the volunteer work, because I love that. I love nature. I love being outdoors.
Uh-huh.
What is it? What does your role involve? I mean, I think you mentioned a little bit there,
Yeah.
but what is it? What does the role involve, and what does it mean to be able to use your voice for people living with disabilities?
Yeah. So my role involves sitting on the board of directors for the Patapsco Valley State Park. There are, oh, don't quote me on this number. There are maybe 12 or 13 board members,
Okay.
and I am the one kind of wheelchair user on the board. And so it means a lot to bring the accessibility voice and perspective
Hmm.
to the group when we're planning events each year. So all the events are planned a
Yeah.
year, in advance,
Right.
and making sure that they are truly accessible. We can call something accessible because maybe it has a flat entry, for instance, right? But accessibility means everything it takes to get there, you know, and parking. Um, do we have a bathroom we can use?
Right.
Is it a safe entry into wherever it is? And
Yeah.
so I really help to break down those pieces according to each event. And the commitment is only a quarterly meeting,
Okay.
with the full board
Yeah.
throughout the year. And then prior to each event, we'll have a little prep meeting where it's like, okay, Chanel, tomorrow we're doing accessible, we call it adaptive mountain biking, which I did yesterday, by the way.
Oh,
It's
nice.
like, okay, is everything in order in terms of access for, the mountain biking event? And so it's really, yeah, it's really, um, for me, something I love to be able to do to ensure that other people who need access to the park or to events, cycling, kayaking, hiking, fishing, all these things have an adaptive proponent to the
Yeah.
within the park. So it's important to me to ensure anybody who wants to come use the park can do so and have
Yeah.
adequate access.
And I'm sure with you being sort of that lone voice, I mean, there's just a lot of things that uh, people aren't thinking about that you can just say, "Hey, have you
Hmm.
thought about this?
Hmm.
What's your plan to deal with this?
Yeah.
Or that." w-
Yes.
what is the one thing that you would want me or somebody else on the audience to really know and understand that would make your advocacy easier?
Ooh, just like in general, not even
Yeah.
tied to the park?
Yeah, no, not entirely. Yeah, just whatever would help us to understand,
Yeah.
your advocacy and why it's so important a little bit
Mhm.
better.
Yeah, I would say, just in public spaces, this is gonna sound really silly, Chris, but
No,
this
no,
is this is really, something that we in the disability world have trouble with,
yeah,
and that is parking and the ability to access our grocery store or our library or our Target
mm,
or any other place where we need to go shop or go to a doctor's appointment, um, you know, hop into the convenience store. Like, we still are people and we still go do things that all of us do. Everyone
Yeah.
else does. And so parking is often the barrier. And that is because a lot of people don't realize when you're looking at the accessible parking and there's these extra aisles that are between the cars and the
Yep.
spaces. I call them blue spaces. I don't
Yep.
necessarily like to use handicap because it's such an old, outdated
Uh,
term.
sure.
So I do say
I
blue
love
spaces.
that, by the blue spaces. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
I just
great.
call them blue spaces.
Yeah.
And you often find that people will park in those access aisle spots.
Yeah.
And I've had it where I've come out of a store and now I can't get to my car. So what do? I have to sit here and wait. I cannot. With a wheelchair, I cannot get
Yeah.
into,
Right.
a normal space, right? And so it's taking away from wheelchair users in particular, or even folks who use mobility aids. So you've got walkers and scooters and all these other things. It's not just a wheelchair, right?
Right.
Where we need that extra space in order to get to a doctor's appointment, get some groceries, etc. And that really is the biggest barrier. And I think people just do not realize because
Yeah.
then it is so discouraging. It will stop
Sure.
people from going out. And it's like, nobody should have to say, you know what, I'm going to skip that doctor's appointment because that parking lot's really hard. Usually people are parked in those access aisles. I don't want to go to this store because I'm probably not going to be able to get a park. That's awful. That's really awful. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And that infuriates me because that's just being selfish. That's just being, I can't park further back because my time is more valuable than somebody else's. I mean, it's just that no joke. I literally saw something on Threads this morning about a woman who saw somebody parking in one of the blue spaces. I love that term. And they were not supposed to be parking there.
Yeah.
And she called them out and made them move because she threatened to call the cops. And I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like that was, I just saw that this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that happens more often than we would think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I see it all the time. Like just when I'm parked, either getting ready to get out of my chair or getting out of my car or approaching my car. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this person doesn't have a placard. Of course, I'm not judging by what people look at. So that, or
Right.
how people look, right?
How people appear.
Right.
Yeah.
Because as long as you have a placard, it's legitimate to park there. Going into the nitty gritty of whether that placard is yours or whether you really need it, all that. I'm not even going down that rabbit hole. I'm just talking about the simple fact that just, a person without any type of placard is parking in these spots. And I've had to call people out too. I've had people get in arguments with me in the parking lot telling me, what was one thing? Oh, so I couldn't find a park. This was outside of Whole Foods. And I parked. So if I have to straddle two spots, I will in order to go into a place. So I'm essentially taking up two spots. If all the blue spots are taken, I did this in this day. My sister was with me. I was getting out of the car and the guy told me, you're parked between two spots. You're taking up a second spot. I'm out of my car. He sees I've got my wheelchair and I need this space. And I said, yeah, all the blue spots are taken. He said, well, you shouldn't be out. You shouldn't have to come. You shouldn't go out if you have to park like this.
Oh my.
I kid you not. That's what he said to me. I also think it was like 2 days before Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh, I'm going to pray for you, guy, because, this is like a holiday week. We're supposed to be grateful, family time. But yeah, he said that. And he didn't even care. He just kept on walking into Whole Foods.
I mean, look, I could go down a whole rabbit trail there of how stupid this guy is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's I think it comes back to a lot of us just have never experienced something like that. We don't know, but there should be some common, simple empathy for others. And again, there's a whole whole other conversation that we go down about how
Right.
that's just
Right.
not present in the world today
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
lot of ways,
Yeah.
regardless of the situation. But
Yep. That's right.
wow. Wow. Okay, well, let's talk about
Yeah.
the book. Let's get on something more
Yeah.
positive.
Yes.
I'm guessing that this story was inspired by real life situations and conversations. Take me back to the beginning and what sort of inspired the book.
Yeah, sure. So what inspired the book was really a couple of years ago. After I had my daughter, I was starting to really go out in public places more with her, of
Yeah.
course. And that would be the park or the playground, even the grocery store. And I was just finding that a lot of kids were starting to come up to me or make comments about, hey, what is that you're on? Why do you have that? What is that thing? And for the older kids, why are you in a wheelchair? They would be able to
Right.
name this is a
Yeah.
wheelchair. And I would just stop and say, "Yep, this is how I get around. This is my wheels. They work as my legs. Just keep it simple." And only if I had time to say that, a lot of times I would see the parents really shuttle the kids away very quickly.
Right.
Like, quick, let's go over to the next aisle, or they'd be like, shh, 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 shh. Yeah. So I was like, this is an interesting response from the parents. So as it was happening more and more, I said, I want to write about this. Like, this would be a fun children's story,
Yeah.
and we're, of course, going to add the piece of really having it be a guide for parents
Mm.
on that it's okay to let your kids be curious as long as they're doing it in a kind way. This is normal for kids to
Yeah.
try to understand what it is that they are seeing, especially if they are not around, other people who use wheelchairs. They're really curious. They just don't know. And so that is how the book idea sparked. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. I mean, and I have been on both sides of those conversations.
Uh,
I've been the parent trying to shuttle the kid away.
mhm,
I've also
mhm.
been the kid, right? Like
Yeah.
because kids are
Right.
curious and they
Right.
don't know that um, it's an awkward question or that it's a
Yeah.
potentially challenging question. And so
Right.
I've definitely
'Cause
been on
they don't
both.
yeah, and they don't get those social dynamics yet, right?
Right,
Like, they have no
right,
filter. A 3, a
right.
4-year-old, it is just
Yeah,
like, "That is what I see, tell me what I see," you know?
yeah. So, i- tell me about the journey that you guys took to
Mm,
get the book from
mhm.
concept to publication. What was that like? Um,
Yeah, yeah, so it really, was an intense year-long process, I would say. So, of course, I had the story in my head, because I had the interactions with me and, my daughter Imani. So I had the content there, but it was a matter of like getting it down on paper and refining it and then getting it to print. So that itself was a year-long process. And what we did was we connected with a publishing company that helped us from the writing piece to get our words down on paper. We were matched when I say we, I mean my husband and I. We were matched with
yeah,
a writing coach and through this publishing company, and we wrote pretty intensively for 3 months. We met with our writing coach every other week, every couple of weeks, and we would write live. We had our draft. That's where we started with him, and we would write live. Okay, here's this 4 lines. What do you think? And he would tell us, let's try to rework this. Let's try to rework that.
wow,
This doesn't really make sense. This is out of place. And so we would do that for 2 hours every couple of weeks with him. And then between those 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we would have homework. He would
yeah,
say, okay, I really want you to work on the intro. The intro needs some work. That's how he would put
yeah,
it. And then we would work on that together, and then we would come back with our writing coach online and say,
yeah,
"Okay, this is what we worked. How is this? Okay, this looks great. Let's move on to the next." So after doing that for 3 months, we then plugged in our pictures, what our picture ideas were, and at that point, because this was the end of 2025, at that point, we sent it to the editor and the illustrator, and they sent us back a first draft of everything, probably in October, maybe November of 2025.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we had the book printed in our hand the beginning of this year,
What
2026.
is that? What is that like for somebody who's never gone through the process of creating something and then
Mm.
seeing it come to life? What was that moment like when you saw the draft and then got the final thing that you could actually hold?
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe that we did it. I really couldn't. I was really proud of us both. It took a lot of dedication to just like get it done. I had so much of it in my head. I was like, this is never going to get down on paper. I was trying to like voice memo, stuff
Right.
to try to like get something out there. Like I have it in my head. I need to get it out. Right.
Yeah.
And so I would do voice memos. And then one day I just was typing. And so it was a lot of hard work, working full time and also being a mom and then
Right.
serving on the board and doing even other community service that I do with my company. I, there are days where I didn't want to write. I was tired. I just wanted to crawl into bed. And luckily, my husband, who was my biggest supporter, um, kept like pushing me, and encouraging me and kept me going. Again, he did help write and refine a lot of the book as well. It wasn't just me. It was like my story, and he's so great at like refining stuff and
Yeah.
just like he kind of really put the finishing touches, if you will, on it, and
Mm.
just kind of he really plugged in some gems there that really made the book stand out. Um, so very proud.
Well, that's awesome. Where can people find it? We'll put links
Mhm.
to be able to
Mm.
pick that up. But where can people find the book?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's called
Hmm.
bradleysbigquestion.com. So people can find it there. Also on that website, there's a guide for parents, and
Mm,
it's 8 phrases on how to respond when your kids ask something that make you freeze. So that's a free guide for parents. And then
nice.
also, if folks are interested in us coming to read to a school program or a summer camp, we have a way to connect with us and get
Okay.
that booked as well on our website. Yep.
Well, I'll put links to all of that
Awesome.
on the podcast notes, so you can find that on the show notes. Is there going to be any more books? Is this more books in the works?
Yeah, so that was a question we got at our book launch a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think so. I think I have it in me. I
Okay.
have other ideas. I think we could turn it into a nice kids series and
Yeah.
make it, kind of different adventures all over town, right?
Yeah.
That are also teachable moments. Uh, so yeah, we'll see.
Wow. No,
I'm
that's
taking a little
we'll look
break now.
forward. Yeah, yeah, right. I was gonna say, yeah, it's probably easier to go to the next one, because you have a lot of the process down and a lot of the
Mhm.
coaching, is probably be easier on the second one.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We learned
Yeah,
so much in that in those coaching sessions. Brennan and I both, Brennan, my husband,
yeah,
we were both like, oh, you know what, we could really pump the next one out
yeah,
more quickly. We were
yeah,
ready for that. We were
yeah.
motivated from those sessions. Yeah.
Well, if someone's listening right now who's in a season of rebuilding, whether that's
Mm,
personally, professionally, or otherwise, what would be one thing that you have come to know or you experienced that you would want them to hear
mhm.
today in that season of rebuilding?
Yeah, I would say to just be patient with yourself, um, and to find support. You it ge w so we're not meant to, like, be alone as humans and just figure
Mhm.
things out as humans, right? And I truly believe everyone needs their own, community and their own support
Yeah.
system. So just being patient with yourself, but then also finding that support to help you through whatever it is you're coming through. I never would have made it where I am today without my family and support system. And of course, most recently, my husband, who continues to support me. And that's just so crucial. It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
I talk a lot about dreaming big on the podcast. What
Oh,
is a
yeah.
dream, a big dream that you are still
Mm.
chasing?
Mm. A big dream that I'm still chasing. Probably getting more into public speaking,
Hmm.
and sharing my story a little bit
Yeah.
more, for the sake of encouragement,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would love to get out there and do that more, so that's probably a big dream that I'm still chasing. I will say, if I can backtrack to 2016, one of my biggest dreams in 2016 was going after the Paralympic US team for
Hmm.
swimming, which I
Yeah.
did, and
Okay.
I went through that 2-year process. When you talked about athletes, wheelchair
Yeah.
users, um, that was me, even though we got in the pool, obviously without our
Right. Right.
without our
Right.
wheelchairs. But I mean, the whole Paralympic movement and then the whole process to compete in all the sports that they do have to compete in under the
Yeah.
Paralympics, it's time consuming and it's a process that people just don't even realize, all with living with a disability, but it's
Right.
also the most empowering thing ever for myself and
Yeah.
maybe for others. I won't speak for other athletes, but to go out to a pool deck before a race and see 20 chairs lined up getting ready to dive into the pool
Mm.
like it's nothing. People with no limbs, people with one arm, like you saw it all. People who are blind were swimming just like anyone else in the Olympics.
Mm.
So that to me, I'm just like, this exists. Oh my goodness. So I went for the Paralympic team and didn't make it. That was for the Brazil games.
Okay.
They only took 1 and 2 places, and I did place 3 and 4 in some of my events. So
Wow.
I was close, but I didn't have the cut. I didn't have the
Yeah.
cut. Yeah.
Wow. No, I did not know that. My
Yeah.
researcher did not unearth that piece. That's
That's
awesome though. That's
okay. Yeah.
so what I hear you saying is that you
Mm.
would still like to go back and try to do that again.
Maybe. That's a maybe.
Yeah.
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 That's a pretty
I'm
cool maybe.
I'm not going to completely take it off the table. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Chanel, for coming on and just
Yeah,
sharing your
absolutely.
story, your experiences, and thanks for writing the book and sharing that with others. And
Sure.
like I said, we'll
Sure.
put a link in the show notes so that people can connect with you and buy the book. We definitely want to drive up
Yes.
sales of that. So like
Yes,
books were made to
please.
be bought. Yeah.
We would appreciate that. Yeah, anywhere the story
Yeah.
can be shared, we would love to see it or hear about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I end every show with what I call the questions. These were inspired
Okay.
by James Lipton, host of Inside the Actors Studio.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna go rapid fire. You take as much time as you want, but these are
Okay.
the 10 questions, and we're just
Sure.
gonna start. Number one, what
Okay.
motivates you?
My family motivates me. Yeah, I have so much to live for with the family that I have, and my family, I mean my husband and my kids, right? But also my parents. Like my parents brought me up and taught me so much and made me who I am today, and so that continues to be my motivating factor, both my parents and then my own family unit. Yeah.
What discourages you?
Mm. What discourages me is just hearing stories of sadness and sorrow. It's like, you know, we as humans can be such great, loving, and supporting and caring people. And so when you hear stories that are contradictory to that, yeah, that kind of brings me down. Yeah.
One word that describes you at your best.
Determined.
One word that describes you at your worst.
Stressed.
Other than family or work, what gives you purpose?
Expanding knowledge in the disability accessibility world, meaning for those that don't live it. Yeah.
What's a guilty pleasure that brings you joy?
Uh, Big, tall, iced, lavender sweet coffee.
Okay. Lavender and coffee. I don't think I've had that one before. All
Oh
right.
my goodness, yes. Lavender latte. Ooh.
How do you celebrate a win?
Usually a little dance and a hallelujah.
Okay. How do you bounce back after a loss?
Ooh. Um, Saying a little prayer. My faith is big to me. And so just talk it over with God, look at God, and yes, say a little prayer. Let's kind of regroup, reset. Yeah.
Who is the last person you expressed gratitude towards?
My husband.
And if you could go back in time, what would you tell your 25-year-old self?
Ooh. If I could go back in time to tell my 25-year-old self something, it would be to just don't get so flustered so quickly. Like, take a
Mm.
breath, whatever the issue or challenges that comes up, breathe and then respond, or take a minute and then respond. Yeah.
You can tell me at 25 that as well. That would be good for me as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Chanelle, thank you again for coming on. It was a great conversation. Thank you for your
absolutely.
advocacy and for the book. And I just love that you're turning that lived experience into something that serves others and makes an impact. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on, Chris. Yeah, this was great.
Pleasure. That is it for this episode of the Holistic Productivity Podcast. Check out the show notes at holisticproductivity.com. Again, we'll have all the links to connect with Chanelle, to get the book. All of that will be there. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. This is a great episode to share. Again, just helping people to understand a little bit more that maybe we didn't understand before. New episodes drop every week. And so when you subscribe, when you like, when you follow, that will make sure that you don't miss anything. So check that out. Make sure you do that. If you enjoyed today's show, which I don't know why you wouldn't, make sure that you give it a 5-star rating. We'd love to see that. 5 stars is really what we're after. And that's just the best way to help other people find the show. It doesn't do anything for me. I still sleep at night one way or the other, but would just love for other people to be able to find the show and enjoy that. You can follow at Holistic Productivity on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, Substack. The list is almost endless, but there's a lot of great productivity tips and motivation every single week. And so we'd love to have you check that out. And then join the Holistic Productivity community online. It's absolutely free. There's a lot of great resources there, great people from around the world who are just helping you stay accountable and motivated. Chanelle talked about community. That is a great place to find that if you are looking to achieve your goals and dreams. So, again, thank you so much for listening. As always, my goal, my reason for doing the show is to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. And I can't wait to see what that looks like for you. So, take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.